Google Stadia. It's cool, but I think it's just not for me. This is my raw feelings after watching the Google Stadia gaming event. Nothing is better than just sitting back and playing a game running directly on the system, actually on the system. Look, digital is cool, streaming is cool, but nothing beats having the game, feeling it, then putting it in your system and have it actually playing right there. No strings attached, no internet needed, just the person, the game, and the system. Google Stadia has some awesome features, guys. Not trying to say that it's not cool. I mean, being able to hop right into a game after watching a trailer on YouTube is brilliant, and I'm sure Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony will emulate that in some way, shape, or form. Google Stadia has some serious server horsepower behind it. That's like amazing. The technology that they're using is really cool. With over 10 teraflops, high-end games will have no problem running on the Stadia online platform. It's going to be amazing for them. And while Google Stadia tried to make it seem like couch co-op was a thing of the past by ignoring Nintendo's efforts, which they pretty much did the whole presentation, it was cool to see them focus on couch co-op, encouraging developers to put those features into their games so people can enjoy games locally. And there's also sure to be some awesome YouTube and live streaming integration into the platform, and some of the features promised, like hopping into games to play against content creators, the queue and waiting in line. That's really awesome, and if executed correctly, can be huge. That can be a really cool way that creators and users can play games against each other. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. And then there's the whole thing about 1,000 person battle royale games that could be possible with their tech. But once again, if executed correctly, it could be really cool. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Google Stadia is no doubt the future in some way. No patches or huge downloads to install, and some of the annoying things that have plagued gaming for generations now are pretty much being resolved with Google Stadia. And third-party developers are probably chomping at the bit to have the type of near full control in terms of monetization and game rights with this platform. But with all that being said, Google Stadia just isn't for me. Sure, I'll try it out, it might be fun, but there are a host of issues that will be an issue at this point for me. Some of these might get fixed as time goes on, but some of these will never be fixed considering the way Google Stadia operates. And remember guys, this is just my opinion, you're free to disagree or agree, so let's go in and hop right in. Now the first issue that I'm going to have, or that I know that I'll have with this, which is already being talked about, is latency. No matter what you want to say with streaming, it's never going to be as good as directly running on a platform. We've seen this before, and latency is definitely an issue. You're going to have latency depending on the internet connection, right? And depending on how intense you want to run the game, how good you want the game to run. They're talking about 4K and 8K at some point and all that, but it's really dependent on your internet connection. And on top of that, there's also a controller that transmits through Wi-Fi. So there could be some latency there, which we did see in their presentation. There was some latency issues with them playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The whole Project Stream thing also showed some latency, but then again, that's an isolated test. I think that as time goes on, it might get better, but there's no doubt about it. When you're talking about online gaming, and when you're talking about having the game stream from online, then also using that same connection for bandwidth to have online gaming, there's definitely going to be some issues. And I know that they preach low latency, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work fine and great for some people with great internet connections, but I think that there's definitely going to be issues with that. And on top of it, guys, fighting games are just purely not going to work on this until internet gets a massive boost around the world. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Fighting games are going to be tough on this and pretty much unplayable when it comes to high level because of the amount of latency and also people's connections. There's no way that it's going to be able to get done in a feasible way. So latency is my first major concern with this when it comes to it being an online streaming platform. Now, another thing thing about this, which is just a given, is always online. I would be somewhat hypocritical if I didn't say that always online irks me. Now, I understand and I get it. We're an online world, right? Everything is through online. Watching this is through online. Streaming through online. Watching live streams that I do is through online. Super Smash Brothers, you go online. There's all sorts of stuff that online is a factor and is a key, and I get that. But to have it to where it's always online, so if your internet is down, then what? There's been multiple times where my internet has went down and I've wanted to play games, and I can easily grab my Nintendo Switch, or I can easily grab a system that doesn't need to be connected online in order to play games. So if you're online, or if your power goes out, or if something happens, you can't play the games. And the whole power thing, that was actually solved by the Nintendo Switch, because of course you can just use it in handheld or portable mode and not have it hooked up to a power source in order to play the game, which does happen to people around the world. Now, it's not something that's super common in terms of for me, just because I do have good online and everything, but it's happened before, and I don't always want to be connected online in order to play games. That's just something that I talked about back when the Xbox was trying to do the whole DRM box or whatever the case was, and I was like, I don't want to be connected always online to play games. And that's what this is. This is an always online type of thing, and online fluctuates. I've had spurts where it's going good, then sometimes it's not, depending on just what's going down with the company, and usually it's pretty good, but sometimes it's not. So that's the reason why I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can jive. I'm not sure if I can sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm excited for something that's going to be always online no matter what. I'm just not sure if I can sit here and be happy. Heck, even in Super Smash Brothers, I'm playing the game and sometimes I go to block somebody that has a really bad connection, or something happens and I have to go to my home menu, and when I come back to the online menu, it logs me off. So you know the game isn't just sitting there and trying to be always online, and there's something great about that I know that it's not an always online game. So I understand and I get it, guys. I understand that we're in an always online world, cell phones, but for me, when you're talking about gaming, I don't want that type of intrusiveness when it comes to playing games. Monetization and price. This is something that they didn't talk about, and once again, this could be fixed with something that they discuss later in the summer or later at some point when they talk about that. But I am a little concerned about what is the price going to be for this. It's going to be a service, so there's definitely going to be a monthly fee, but is there actually going to be to where we can own the game? Like, what's the price? Is it going to be $60 for a game, even though you don't physically own that game? It's going to be streaming. Like, how are they going to do this with monetization? How expensive is it going to be for all of these cool features and the servers and the database and all this stuff? How much are they going to charge for it? Because it seems to me like it's all expensive tech. Now, of course, I think it's cheaper than doing something like an actual console, because you have to pay for shipping and the hardware and the R&D, and I get it. And Google's a tech company, so a lot of this has already been researched for them. They just have to put together the talent to make it happen, which they've definitely done. I don't think Google at this point is lacking on talent, with Phil Harrison and also Jade Raymond, and Amy Hennig is probably going to be announced for something as well. So they've definitely got talent and developers working on the games, but it's one of those things to where it doesn't seem like it's going to be like priced at a point to where it's going to be affordable, based on them not talking about it at all and based on the tech behind it and what's going down. Streaming services are never something that's going to be very cheap. So I'm a little concerned about that. And something that I kind of alluded to a little bit beforehand, but ownership of games. Do you actually own these games? And that's the fine print that even with digital, they don't tell you. You don't actually necessarily own that. And the copyright holders at any point can take that game away from you digitally. So we're talking even when you download the game to your hard drive, it can be taken away. The only time they can't take away something is when you actually physically own the game in your hand, that cartridge, that Blu-ray. And with this, it seems like you're not actually going to own anything. It seems like you're just going to be able to stream what you want at times, but nothing you actually own. And I think that's the biggest issue, once again, that I have. You don't actually own it. You need that online connection. It needs to verify and go through checks and processes and whatever the case is, always online. And you don't actually own anything that you're paying for. And I know the thing will be like, oh, well, what about Netflix? Or what about those things? But Netflix, those are movies. Netflix is something completely different. Hulu and all that, something completely different. You don't play those. You just watch them. Gaming is something that you play, something that you should be able to at least physically own or have the option for that. And it seems like to me that it's not going to be an option with this. Maybe. Because it's a streaming platform. There's no hardware with this. You just basically stream it on any type of device through online. So it doesn't seem like you're going to actually own anything. And I think that's the reason why third-party developers are actually excited about this, because you don't actually own anything and all the power is to them when it comes to owning your games. Taking away games after you've downloaded is a bit tricky, but it can be done. And it's actually happened before. But with this instance, this is something to where they don't even have to worry about that. You literally don't own anything. Now, the last thing that I'm going to kind of get into before I wrap this one up is no physical games, no display. Now, this is the old man in me, and I get it, and I know some of you guys are going to say that, and yes, I'm unapologetic about this. But as I've gotten older, I've realized the more I actually want to physically own the game. I want to have it on my display behind me. I want to have the cartridge. I want to put the cartridge in the system and play, or put the Blu-ray in the system and play. And it was one of the reasons why I was so excited even back when the first rumors of the Nintendo Switch, back called the NX, was using cartridges. I was like, man, that reminds me of growing up and having those cartridges and actually having everything, the fast boots, the no installs, the cool things that was about gaming back then. Being able to have that and own it, and have the box art and look at that and just display it. This is something that's completely old school of me, but it's something that I cherish and that I like because it reminds me of when I was a kid growing up and when games were pretty much in their purest form, right? Like when something happened, like if there was a problem with the game, it was a problem with the game. There was no patches, there was no anything like that. And now we kind of have the best of both, right? If something's wrong, you can still have your cartridge, you can boot it up there, but then you can also fix it. There can be a patch. Obviously, patches are good and bad. When it comes to some developers, take the lazy route, but still, I would take that option over simply just a streaming platform, just streaming and no physical ownership of actually anything. To me, that's just not the way that I want to operate when I play games. To me, part of the experience is going out, picking up the game, holding the game, maybe waiting in line, a midnight launch, something like that, right? You have people that line up for phones all the time, and that's the part of the experience for them, you know? But for me, part of the experience is going out there, getting the game, especially if it's a highly anticipated game, or getting the platform, actually having it and being able to display it. This is just online, it almost as if it doesn't exist, right? This thing, but it's out there because it's the internet, right? It's just always streaming. So to me, actually holding the Switch in my hand and being able to play, being able to pick up the cartridge, put that in there. That's why I wanted that part at the beginning where I did that, right? Because that's just something that's magical to me and has been brought back to the forefront with the Switch. But even with the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, going out there, buying the game physical, even though it's pretty much just a disc, right? Because it installs to your hard drive, but at least you can still preserve that. And I guess that's the main reason why I like going forward with cartridge tech, because I like being able to have the fast boots and a lot of the stuff that was annoying about the gaming generations with the installs and everything. You didn't have that with what Nintendo is doing with the Wii U. There wasn't really many games that did that, and you don't really have that with the Switch outside of a few games where you have to install like extra parts of the game because of the cartridge sizes, but it's the beginning, right? So for me, once again, I know I kind of sound like an old guy when it comes to that, but at the same time, I think that it's a legit type of thing that I think people old and people young can look at it and say, well, wait a minute, I kind of want to own my games. Just like there's some people that want to own their Blu-rays, or some people that want to actually own physical collections of different types of hobbies. Like there's people that own all sorts of coins, or people that collect various different things. And I think that's kind of how I feel with gaming. I want to actually be able to collect things as well. So that's my thought process on this, guys. Google Stadia is cool, but it's just not for me. I feel that the Fortnite generation, the younger kids, might actually get into this. And like I've stated before, I'll probably try it out. I think it'll be fun to see what they're going to do. But overall, it's just not for me. So what do you guys think about what I had to say here about Google Stadia and your thoughts on this versus what's going on in the gaming industry? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys for the next one. Peace.